My sister's perfect life was about to implode, and I had front row seats to the show. Not that I planned it that way. At least, not initially. I'm Brooke, and last Tuesday, I stood in my sister's pristine kitchen, surrounded by marble countertops and stainless steel appliances that probably cost more than my annual rent. My daughter Savannah slouched against the refrigerator, her phone an invisible shield between her and this moment. My 8-year-old son Wyatt sat at the breakfast bar, legs swinging, carefully arranging his dinosaur figures in attack formation. "The guest house is yours for as long as you need it," my sister said, sliding a glass of wine toward me. Caroline, ever the gracious host, even when her charity felt like chains. "We'll be out of your hair soon," I promised, though we both knew I had nowhere else to go. My latest play had flopped, the reviews brutal enough to make me question every life choice that led me here. At 38, moving in with my more successful sister wasn't exactly part of the plan. "Don't be ridiculous," Caroline waved away my words. "Nathan and I have more space than we need." She gestured at her sprawling kitchen, as if I needed reminding of her wealth. "Besides, Mother will be thrilled to have everyone closer." The mention of our mother made my stomach clench. "Has she called today?" "Only twice." Caroline's lips twitched. "She's already planning Sunday dinner, says she'll make your favorite lasagna." The way she emphasized "your" carried years of resentment. "Mom, can I go explore?" Wyatt asked, dinosaurs forgotten. "Stay where I can see you," I called as he darted toward the backyard. Through the facing French doors, I watched him discover the elaborate playground set that probably saw more use from the landscapers than any children. Savannah finally looked up from her phone. "This is temporary, right?" Her voice carried that edge of teenage defiance that had sharpened since the move. "Of course it is, honey." The lie tasted bitter. Caroline's husband Nathan appeared in the doorway, his designer suit at odds with the casual Sunday afternoon. "The movers got everything settled?" he asked, though he must have heard them leave hours ago. "All set," I replied, noting how his eyes darted to Caroline, some unspoken message passing between them. "Excellent. We'll have to celebrate properly once you're settled." Nathan's smile didn't quite reach his mouth, let alone his eyes. "Caroline, a word?" My sister followed him out, their whispered conversation carrying just enough tension to pique my interest. I moved closer to the doorway, straining to hear. "Can't back out now," Nathan's voice, urgent and low. "The deadline's approaching." "I know what I agreed to," Caroline hissed back. "But she's my sister. And this is our future." I retreated before they could catch me eavesdropping, but their words lodged in my chest like splinters. Through the window, I watched Wyatt on the swing set, his small figure dwarfed by the massive oak trees that ringed my sister's property. Trees our father had loved before the stroke took him last year. My phone buzzed. A text from my ex-husband Johnny. "Heard about the move. Need to talk. Important." I deleted it, without responding. Whatever scheme he was cooking up could wait. Right now, I needed to focus on the mystery unfolding in my sister's perfect home. Because despite Caroline's generous offer and Nathan's practiced smile, something felt wrong. The kind of wrong that made me wonder if seeking shelter here might be the biggest mistake of my life. Or maybe, just maybe, exactly where I needed to be to uncover the truth. The scent of my mother's lasagna filled Caroline's dining room, but even that couldn't mask the tension crackling between us. Sunday dinner, our first since moving in, felt like a performance where everyone had forgotten their lines. "Savannah, darling, how's the college search going?" my mother asked, passing the garlic bread. "Caroline tells me you're considering law school." "Actually, I'm looking at art programs," Savannah said, stabbing her fork into her pasta. "Photography and digital media." My mother's face tightened. "Oh, well, that's creative. Though with your grades, you could follow your Aunt Caroline's path. She just made partner, you know." "For the third time tonight, Mother," I muttered. Caroline preened. "The firm's expanding our corporate division. Nathan's connections have been invaluable." Nathan cleared his throat. "Speaking of business, Brooke, have you given any thought to Dad's old property? The market's excellent right now." The question caught me off guard, Our father's lake house had been empty since his death, a subject none of us discussed. I hadn't planned to sell. It's just sitting there, Caroline chimed in. The taxes alone. Which I'm handling, I cut her off. Wyatt looked up from his plate. Can we visit Grandpa's house? I missed the tire swing. Of course we can, sweetie. I caught Nathan's frown at my response. That old place needs work, my mother sighed. Your father always meant to renovate. Caroline, remember how he used to talk about adding that sunroom? The one he promised to build for Brooke's writing? Savannah's voice dripped with accusation. Funny how that never happened. Savannah, I warned, but the damage was done. My mother's lips pursed. Your aunt has always made practical choices. Perhaps if your mother had... That's enough. I pushed back from the table. Wyatt, honey, why don't you go play in the family room? After he left, Caroline touched our mother's arm. Mom's just concerned, Brooke. We all are. Living in the guest house isn't a long-term solution. Neither is selling my inheritance, I shot back. Nathan's phone buzzed. He checked it, then stood abruptly. Work call, excuse me? I followed him into the hallway, pretending to head to the bathroom. He spoke in hushed tones, but I caught fragments. The zoning board. Yes, the whole lakefront. By Friday. My chest tightened. I ducked into Caroline's study, needing space to think. A manila folder lay open on her desk. Property assessments for the Lake District, including our father's land. Recent assessments. Snooping doesn't suit you. I whirled to find my best friend Heather in the doorway. I'd almost forgotten Caroline had invited her, probably hoping her presence would soften the evening. They're planning something, I whispered, pulling her inside. Nathan, Caroline, they've been assessing Dad's property without telling me. Heather closed the door. Are you sure you're not... Look at these dates, I showed her the papers. They had the land surveyed last month. Why would they do that unless they're preparing to sell? Heather's expression darkened. But they'd need your signature. Unless they found a way around it. The thought made me sick. Dad left the house to both of us, but Caroline's the executor. A knock interrupted us. Brooke? Caroline called. Mother's asking for you. I shoved the folder back, but not before snapping photos with my phone. Coming! Back at the table, my mother was serving dessert. I was just telling Caroline she should help you with your next play. Her connections could... I don't need help, I said, just as my phone chimed. A text from Johnny. Heard about the lake house deal. We should talk. I know things. Everything okay? Caroline asked, watching me too closely. I forced a smile. Perfect. But under the table, my hands shook as I typed a response to Johnny. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., you know where. For once, my unreliable ex-husband might be useful. Because whatever Caroline and Nathan were planning, they'd forgotten one thing. I'd learned from the best how to play family games, and this time I wasn't going to lose. More wine, dear? My mother offered Caroline. None for me, my sister replied. Early meeting tomorrow. The firm's handling a major property development. Our eyes met across the table, and in that moment I saw it. The flicker of guilt that confirmed everything. The perfect sister was about to learn that some betrayals can't be hidden behind Sunday dinners and fake smiles. Johnny was already waiting at our old meeting spot, the bench outside the community theater where we'd first met. His familiar cologne brought back memories I'd rather forget. You look good, Brooke, he said, that charming half-smile playing on his lips. Living with Caroline agrees with you. Cut the small talk. What do you know about the lake house? He shifted closer. Nathan's got big plans for that whole area. Luxury condos, retail space, the works. But there's a problem with the permits. And you know this how? I bartend at their country club now. He shrugged. Amazing what people say when they think you're just part of the furniture. A chill ran through me despite the morning heat. They can't develop that land without my signature. Unless they prove you're an unfit co-owner, unable to maintain the property, pay taxes. His words hung in the air like smoke. My phone buzzed. Caroline. I ignored it. Is that why they invited us to stay? To prove I'm dependent on them? Smart girl, always were. Johnny leaned back. But here's what they don't know. The environmental survey came back bad. Protected species on the wetlands portion. Nathan's trying to bury the report. And what do you want in exchange for this information? Can't I just be helping my favorite ex-wife? You don't do anything without an angle, Johnny. He stood, brushing invisible lint from his sleeve. Let's just say I might need a character witness someday. For custody arrangements. We both know you haven't seen Wyatt in months. People change, Brooke. Back at Caroline's house, I found my sister waiting in the kitchen. Where were you? She demanded. Mother's been trying to reach you about the charity gala. Meeting a source for my new play. The lie came easily. About siblings who betray each other. Caroline's hand trembled as she set down her coffee cup. If you have something to say. The wetlands survey, Caroline. When were you planning to tell me? Her face paled. Who? Does it matter? What matters is you and Nathan thought you could steal my inheritance. We're trying to help you, she hissed. You're drowning in debt. Your career's going nowhere. So naturally the solution is to force me out of Dad's property? You never appreciated what you had anyway. Dad gave you everything. The encouragement, the support. His precious artistic daughter, while I had to fight for every scrap of attention. Is that what this is about? Still competing for Daddy's approval? This is about survival, Caroline snapped. Nathan's investments. Are you failing? I finished. Is that why you need my land so badly? A noise made us both turn. Savannah stood in the doorway, phone in hand. I recorded everything, she said, including what Uncle Nathan just said on his phone about falsifying the permit applications. Caroline lunged for the phone, but Savannah danced away. One click, and this goes to the zoning board, my daughter warned. You wouldn't dare, Caroline breathed. Try me, Aunt Caroline. Nobody messes with my mom. After Savannah left, Caroline gripped the counter, knuckles white. You put her up to this? Unlike some people, I don't manipulate family members. Nathan will do exactly what we tell him to do, I interrupted. Unless he wants to face fraud charges. The back door opened, and Nathan strode in, phone pressed to his ear. He froze when he saw us. I'll call you back, he said quickly. Tell him, Caroline whispered. Tell me what? Nathan's eyes darted between us. The deal's off, I said firmly, and if you try to force it through, every environmental agency in the state will know about your little cover-up. Nathan's face darkened. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Neither do you. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Caroline, we'll be moving out tomorrow. I'd rather sleep in my car than stay under the same roof as people who'd steal from their own family. Brooke, wait, Caroline called after me, but I was already walking away. In the guest house, I found Wyatt building a fort from moving boxes. Are we leaving, Mom? He asked quietly. Yes, honey, but we're going somewhere better. I pulled out my phone to text Heather, only to find a new message from an unknown number. Watch your back. Nathan's friends play rough. The game was only beginning. Heather's guest room felt like exile, but it was better than staying at Caroline's. I spent the morning digging through old files on my laptop while Wyatt watched cartoons, and Savannah helped our host make breakfast. You've got a visitor, Heather called from the kitchen. It's your mother. Perfect. Just what I needed. My mother stood in the doorway, designer handbag clutched like a shield. This tantrum needs to stop, Brooke. Caroline's devastated. Devastated that her scheme failed, you mean? Nathan explained everything. The development would have benefited everyone. Your father would have understood that. I pulled up the environmental report Johnny had sent. Would Dad have understood destroying protected wetlands or falsifying permits? She waved dismissively. Business is complicated. You've always been too idealistic. Like when I believed my family wouldn't try to steal from me. Mom? Wyatt appeared beside me. Grandma, want to see my new drawing? My mother's expression softened. Of course, darling. But first, I need to talk to your mother about coming home. We are home, Savannah said from behind her. Somewhere without lies. Such drama, my mother sighed. Just like your mother. My phone buzzed, an email from an anonymous account. Inside were bank statements showing massive transfers from Nathan's business accounts to offshore holdings. And something else. Documentation of loans taken out against my father's property using forged signatures. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What is it?" Heather asked. Before I could answer, another text came through. "Meeting, Lake House, 1 hour, come alone or these go public." "I have to go," I said, grabbing my keys. "Mom, don't!" Savannah pleaded. "It's obviously a trap." "Stay with Heather," I told her, hugging both my children quickly. "Lock the doors." The drive to the lake house felt endless. Nathan's car was already there, parked next to an unfamiliar black SUV. I found them in Dad's old study. Nathan, Caroline, and a man I didn't recognize. "Right on time," the stranger said. "I'm Marcus, Nathan's investment partner." "You mean his loan shark?" I held up my phone. "I have proof of everything. The fraud, the money laundering, all of it." "Brooke, please." Caroline stepped forward. "You don't understand what's at stake." "Then explain it to me." Nathan's face was ashen. "The development deals went bad. Marcus helped cover the losses, but now he owns you," I finished. "And you thought stealing my inheritance would save you?" "We can make this right," Marcus said smoothly. "Sign over your share, and these documents disappear. Everyone wins. Everyone except me." "Think about your children," Caroline urged. "What kind of life can you give them if you're tied up in legal battles? If your name's connected to a fraud scandal?" A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned to find Johnny in the doorway, looking apologetic. "Sorry, Brooke. They made me a better offer." "You son of a—" "Language," Marcus smiled. "You have 1 hour to decide. Sign, or everything goes public. Your sister's career, your ex-husband's custody chances, all of it burns." I looked at Caroline, really looked at her. Behind the designer clothes and perfect makeup, I saw something I'd missed before. Fear. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "Dad always said you were the smart one, but you married a con man and tied yourself to criminals." "At least I made something of myself," she snapped, "while you chased pipe dreams and failed at everything, marriage, career, even being a daughter." "That's where you're wrong." I pulled out my phone. "I succeeded at one thing, learning from you. This entire conversation is being live-streamed to my lawyer. Wave to the camera, Marcus." The color drained from Nathan's face. Caroline grabbed his arm. "She's bluffing." "Am I? Check your phones. I'm sure it's already making rounds at your firm." Marcus moved toward me, but I was already backing away. "You just made a very big mistake." "No," I said. "I just ended one. The police are probably already at your office, Nathan. Those offshore accounts weren't as hidden as you thought. I left them there, in my father's study, surrounded by the wreckage of their schemes. In my car, my hands shook as I started the engine. The live stream had been a bluff, but the police tip wasn't. Now I just had to get back to my children before the real fallout began. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what you've started." Maybe not, but I knew how it would end. The news broke at dawn. Nathan's arrest made the morning headlines, his perfectly posed corporate headshot now a mugshot. I watched Caroline's carefully constructed world crumble through my phone screen while sitting in Heather's kitchen. "Mom, look at this." Savannah held up her tablet. "Uncle Nathan's company is being investigated for connections to organized crime." My hands trembled around my coffee cup. "Any mention of the lake house?" "Not yet, but Aunt Caroline's law firm has suspended her pending investigation." The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Heather checked the security camera. "It's your mother." "Don't," I started, but she was already opening the door. My mother burst in, clutching a stack of papers. "Have you seen what you've done? Caroline's reputation is ruined." "What I've done? They tried to steal my property through fraud." "Property?" She slammed the papers down. "This is about family. Your sister needs you." Like she needed me when she helped Nathan forge documents? Wyatt appeared in the doorway, his dinosaur tucked under his arm. "Grandma, why are you yelling?" My mother's face softened. "Because your mother is being stubborn, like when she refused to sell her silly plays and get a real job." "Those silly plays paid for your hip surgery," I reminded her. The one Caroline was too busy to help with. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was Caroline. She looked different. Smaller somehow, without her power suit and perfect makeup. "Can we talk, alone?" I followed her onto Heather's back porch, keeping the door cracked so I could hear if anything happened inside. "Nathan's being transferred to federal custody," Caroline said quietly. "Marcus is threatening to expose everything, including things about Dad's business dealings." "What things?" "Things that would destroy his legacy. Please, Brooke, I need your help." "Like you helped me? By plotting to take my inheritance?" "I was desperate," her composure cracked. "Nathan's debts. Marcus threatened Wyatt, said he'd make sure Johnny got custody." My blood ran cold. "When?" "Last month, right before you moved in." She pulled out her phone, showed me texts from Marcus detailing plans to frame me as an unfit mother. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought I could fix it. I always fix everything." Her voice broke. "That's my role, remember? The perfect daughter, the successful sister, the one who never fails." Inside, I heard Wyatt laugh at something Savannah said. The sound cut through my anger like a knife. "I found something else," Caroline continued. "In Nathan's files, records of bribes, blackmail, going back years. Dad's name is all over them." "You're lying!" She pulled out more documents. Dad wasn't just Nathan's mentor, he was his partner. The lake house. It was bought with dirty money. The world tilted sideways. Does Mother know? Why do you think she's been pushing so hard to sell? She's trying to protect Dad's reputation, even now. My phone buzzed. A text from Johnny. "Marcus knows you called the cops. Watch your back." Another message followed, this one with a photo of Savannah at her school last week. A warning. "What do they want?" I asked Caroline. "The same thing they've always wanted. The land. It's not just about development. There's something else there. Something in those protected wetlands." Through the window, I watched my children with our mother. Wyatt showing her his drawings, Savannah pretending not to care but hovering nearby. All the pieces of my broken family still somehow fitting together. "If I help you," I said slowly, "it's on my terms. No more lies, no more perfect sister act." "Agreed." Caroline touched my arm, the first real contact we'd had in years. "But we have to move fast. Marcus won't wait long to retaliate." As if on cue, both our phones chimed, a message from an unknown number. "Tick-tock, ladies. Time to decide whose secrets get buried with your fathers." I looked at Caroline, seeing past her facade to the scared little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "Then let's give them something they don't expect." "What's that?" "Sisters who fight back." The holding cell at the county jail smelled like despair and cheap disinfectant. I sat across from Nathan, watching him fidget in his orange jumpsuit while Caroline paced behind me. "You have one chance," I said. "Tell us what's really in those wetlands." Nathan's eyes darted to the security camera. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "Try me." "Marcus isn't just some loan shark. He's connected to people who make problems disappear." He leaned forward. "Your father knew that. It's why he played along." "Our father was not corrupt," Caroline snapped. "No? Ask your mother about the safety deposit box, the one she emptied the day after he died." The guard signaled our time was up. Outside, Caroline grabbed my arm. "He's lying." "Is he?" "Because Mom's been acting strange ever since Dad died." I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Heather. "We need to." A black SUV screeched to a halt beside us. 2 men jumped out. "Inside!" Caroline shoved me toward the courthouse doors, but we weren't fast enough. I woke up in a warehouse office, zip ties cutting into my wrists. Marcus sat behind a desk, examining Dad's old fountain pen. "Beautiful craftsmanship," he said. "Your father had excellent taste." "Where's Caroline?" "Having a chat with my associates about family loyalty." He set the pen down. "Now about those wetlands." "I don't know anything." "No? Your father didn't tell you about the shipments? The special cargo that needed discreet handling?" My head throbbed. "You're lying." "Am I?" He slid a photo across the desk. Dad shaking hands with Marcus, both younger, standing by the lake house dock. Your father built his reputation on lies. The respected businessman, the perfect family man. Ask yourself why he really gave you that property. The door opened. Caroline stumbled in, supported by Johnny of all people. Sorry, Brooke. Johnny wouldn't meet my eyes. They have Wyatt. The world stopped spinning. What? He's safe, Marcus said smoothly. For now. Your mother's watching him and Savannah at her house. Sweet kids. Shame if something happened to their custody arrangement. You bastard! Sign the papers transferring the property. He cut me off. Or your children become collateral damage in a very unfortunate custody battle. Caroline spoke up, her voice raw. Don't do it, Brooke. He'll never stop. Shut up, Johnny snapped. You don't have kids. You don't understand. No, you shut up. Caroline straightened despite her split lip. Our father may have been corrupt, but we're not him. We're not you either, Johnny. We're stronger. Marcus sighed, pulling out his phone. Perhaps a video call with your children would help you decide. The screen showed Wyatt and Savannah in my mother's living room, but something was off about Savannah's posture. She kept touching her ear, the earpiece, the one Heather had given her for emergencies. You want the property? I said quickly, before Caroline could speak. Fine, but I need to make the transfer in person. Bank protocols. Marcus studied me. You have 1 hour. Your sister stays here as insurance. No, Caroline protested. Brooke, trust me, I whispered as they led me out. In the car, Johnny kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I had no choice. There's always a choice. I watched the familiar streets pass. Like the choice you made to tell Heather about Marcus's warehouse location last week. His eyes widened in the mirror. How did you? Because, unlike you, some people actually care about their family. We turned onto my mother's street just as police sirens began wailing in the distance. Through the window, I saw Savannah give me a slight nod. The cavalry was coming. But first, I had a mother to confront about a safety deposit box. Sometimes the worst betrayals come from those closest to us. And sometimes, the strength to fight back comes from the very family ties others try to use against you. I touched the scar on my wrist where the zip ties had cut in. Time to finish what Dad started. But this time, on my terms. My mother's hands shook as she opened the safety deposit box. Inside lay a single USB drive and a stack of photographs I'd never seen before. Your father wasn't perfect, she said quietly, but everything he did was to protect this family. Sirens wailed closer. Through the living room window, I watched Johnny's car disappear around the corner. Savannah stood by the front door, her phone recording everything. Wyatt huddled behind her, clutching his dinosaur. Did you know? I demanded. About the smuggling? The bribes? I knew enough. She touched one of the photos. Dad at the lake house dock, watching men unload unmarked crates. Marcus threatened to expose everything unless Nathan continued the operation. Your father's reputation, our family name. So you helped them try to steal my inheritance? To protect a lie? The front door burst open. Caroline stumbled in, followed by Marcus and 2 of his men. Blood trickled from her temple. Family reunion? Marcus smiled. How convenient. Where's the drive? My mother clutched the USB tighter. It's over, Marcus. The police are too late. He pulled out a gun. The drive, now. Put it down, a new voice said. Heather stepped out of the kitchen, holding her own weapon. Federal Agent Heather Martinez, you're under arrest. My best friend was FBI. The realization hit like a thunderbolt. Marcus laughed. 1 agent against 3 of us? Bad odds. Try again, Savannah said, still recording. Your confession's already streaming to the FBI server, and Mom's wearing a wire. For a moment, nobody moved. Then everything happened at once. Marcus lunged for my mother. Caroline tackled him from behind. The gun went off, shattering a vase. Wyatt screamed. Heather's weapon fired twice. One of Marcus's men fell. The other dropped his gun, raising his hands. But Marcus had my mother in a chokehold, backing toward the door. The drive, he growled. Or Mommy Dearest joins your father. I held up the USB. You want it? Let's make a trade. Just you and me at the lake house, where this all started. Mom, no! Savannah stepped forward. Stay back, I warned. To Marcus, 1 hour. Bring my mother and the property papers. I'll bring the drive. He nodded once, dragging my mother out. Are you insane? Caroline grabbed my arm. He'll kill you both. No, I said, watching Marcus's car speed away. He won't, because Dad left us more than just evidence on this drive. I pulled out a second USB from my pocket, the real one, which my mother had slipped me while pretending to resist handing over the first. What's on it? Heather asked. Everything. Account numbers, contact lists. Dad wasn't just recording Marcus's operation. He was gathering evidence against everyone involved. I turned to Caroline, including Nathan's overseas partners. You knew? Caroline whispered. About Heather? I suspected. After Johnny told her about the warehouse, I realized someone was building a case. I checked my phone. A text from an unknown number. Package received. Teams in position. What's the plan? Savannah asked. Marcus thinks he's getting blackmail material. Instead, he's walking into a trap. Dad's last gift to us. The chance to finish what he started. And Mom? I touched the scar on my wrist, remembering zip ties and warehouse offices. She made her choice. Now she has to live with it. Caroline straightened her bloody blazer. Then let's end this. Together. Wyatt, stay with Heather, I said, hugging my son. Savannah. I'm coming with you, she said firmly. Family stands together, right? I looked at my daughter, seeing the strength I'd sometimes forgotten I had. At Caroline, who'd finally chosen the right side. At the shattered remains of our mother's perfect living room, where all the lies had finally broken open. Right, I said. Let's go show Marcus what happens when he messes with this family. We had 1 hour to set our trap, one chance to make things right. And this time, all our cards were finally on the table. The lake house stood silent in the pre-dawn light. I watched Marcus's car approach through the security feed Heather had installed hours earlier. My mother sat rigid in his passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap like she was heading to Sunday service. Teams in position! Heather's voice crackled through my earpiece. Remember, we need his confession. Caroline touched my arm. Ready? I nodded, feeling the weight of Dad's fountain pen in my pocket. The same one Marcus had admired in his office, now fitted with Heather's recording device. They entered through the front door. Marcus, my mother, and 2 new guards. The living room still held echoes of our childhood. Dad's chess set, Mom's needlepoint pillows, the scratch on the coffee table from when Caroline threw my diary at me. The drive, Marcus demanded. The papers first. I gestured to his briefcase. And my mother walks free. He smiled. You know what your father said, right before he died? That his daughters would never understand sacrifice. We understand plenty, Caroline said, stepping from the shadows. About sacrifice. About loyalty. And about family, my mother added quietly. She met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw past her perfect facade to the scared woman beneath. I'm sorry, Brooke, for everything. Marcus pulled out his gun. Enough reunion speeches. The drive. I placed Dad's pen on the table. It's inside, along with a letter explaining everything. How you blackmailed Dad, how Nathan helped launder the money, how the wetlands were never about development. Smart girl. He reached for the pen. Just like your father, too smart to live. Did you kill him? The question that had haunted me for a year. The stroke. Let's just say stress can be deadly. He pocketed the pen. Now, about those property papers. Federal agents, Heather's voice boomed through hidden speakers. The building is surrounded. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Marcus grabbed my mother as a shield. Caroline lunged for his gun. I dove for the chess set, grabbing the heavy marble board. The gun went off. Caroline screamed. But it was Marcus who staggered, the chessboard connecting with his temple as my mother drove her elbow into his solar plexus. Agents swarmed in. Through the chaos, I heard his confession playing from the pen's hidden speaker. Stress can be deadly. Later, sitting on the dock with Caroline and our mother, we watched the sun rise over the water Dad had loved so much. Nathan's agreed to testify, Caroline said, against Marcus's whole organization. And Johnny? Witness protection. He'll never see Wyatt again. My mother touched the bruises on her neck. Your father wanted to tell you both about everything. He kept a journal. We found it, I said, in the walls of the boathouse, along with records of every transaction, every threat. He was building a case. He never stopped protecting you girls. She stood slowly. I should have done the same. You did, Caroline surprised me by saying, in your own broken way. I pulled out the property papers. The real ones, not Marcus's forgeries. So what now? The lake house needs work. Savannah mentioned wanting a photography studio, Caroline mused. And my law practice could use a fresh start, something more ethical. A family business? Our mother sounded hopeful. No. I tore the papers in half. Something better. A fresh start on equal ground. No more perfect daughter, no more family hierarchy. Just sisters, Caroline agreed. And maybe friends? Inside, I heard Savannah and Wyatt arguing over breakfast, Heather's team packing up their surveillance gear, the sounds of a new normal taking shape. I'm writing a new play, I said finally, about family and forgiveness, and how sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go of who we pretended to be. Caroline squeezed my hand. Our mother wiped a tear. The lake reflected our three silhouettes, no longer perfect, but perhaps stronger for being broken and rebuilt. Like Dad's chess set, now missing pieces, but still standing on his old table. A reminder that sometimes what survives isn't what we expected, but exactly what we need.